Okay, you guys. Today I want to get to the topic because I got a really interesting topic today. And as people are coming on, I'm going to ask this question a couple of times because I want you guys to answer. The question is, do you have a known food sensitivity? Or do you suspect that you might have a food sensitivity? And if so, what food or foods do you think this applies to, and how do you know? So that's a few questions. Some people I've talked to in the group a few times, we've talked about it, and some people know for sure. And then some people are like, well, I don't know for sure, but I kind of notice this when this happens, or I eat this and whatever. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to tell and how to know for sure, because that's the interesting thing. So answer if you can. And as usual, if anybody here, you guys that I can see so far, I'll know this, but in case someone comes in after, I am not a doctor. See, my sign proves it. I am not a doctor. But I just love to talk about anything to do with natural health, keto, ways to improve our health. And we just have these great little chats in the group and we can all share the information. So please speak to your doctor, a naturopathic doctor, because I am not a doctor. I'm the reporter. I report the news. I'm not the news. So don't blame me. Don't say, she said. Okay, so let's get to it here. I have my big fan on because I was like, after that nosebleed situation, I was like getting all kind of sweaty afterwards. So don't mind me, but my notes are kind of flying a little bit here. I need to get one of those like little fans that just blow on you, but I have a ceiling fan and it's just like kind of comes down really heavy duty. Okay. So guys, when our discussion today is about food sensitivities and intolerances. I am not talking about food allergies. Obviously, you would know if you have a food allergy because it would be obvious. You'd either have an EpiPen or you'd have a really bad time. You would know that by now if you had a food allergy, and I presume that you live your life accordingly. But what we're talking about today are food sensitivities and intolerances. And most of the time, most people don't even know for sure that they have it. They may have a little inkling, they might have a little idea, they kind of, gauge based on how they eat, but they don't know for sure. Okay, someone said, oh, my sister said, red wine, and not for the obvious reasons. It makes me feel crappy and my cheeks get red, headache, etc. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like it's the obvious reasons of getting a little bit tipsy, or to do with keto. That's not even what we're talking about here today. We are talking about how you feel physically, and I will add to that mentally too. Because when we go through the list, I'll tell you the ones that I have, and there is a definite mental component to some of these foods for me. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I get a lot of anxiety when I eat too much of certain foods. So we'll talk about that. Okay, so eating foods that we are sensitive to. Here's some of the symptoms, and trust me, oh my gosh, when I was doing research for this, there are so many symptoms, and some can be really, really unique. But I'm just going to read out the ones that are the most obvious, the ones that people mostly talk about: stomach aches, gas, cramps, bloating, heartburn, diarrhea, headaches, lethargy, tiredness, water retention, difficulty losing weight. That's a sneaky little one that goes in there. Skin problems, psoriasis, eczema, acne, rosacea, hives, and the biggie, inflammation. So puffy face, puffy hands, puffy ankles, achy joints. These are the most common symptoms that people talk about when they have food sensitivities. And like most of us, we don't really notice all the time if we're eating a wide variety of foods, right? We don't always notice it. But for anyone that kind of has a sneaky suspicion and you take that out because you're kind of thinking that probably causes you a problem, and then you're feeling kind of good, and then you bring it back again because, whatever, you either thought, it wasn't too bad, or you had kind of convenient amnesia. That's what happens to me. Or you go on a vacation or something like that, and then you bring it back and then you go, holy crap, I completely forgot how bad that was. That's when you really notice the difference. When you're eating a wide variety of food all the time, you may not notice these things all the time, depending on how severe your problem is. Okay, so how do you know? How do you know if you have an issue with any of these foods? Well, like my sister just said, she knows when she has wine that it makes her feel crappy, her cheeks get red, she gets a headache, etc. So she can tell. It's sort of like cause and effect right away. So paying attention to your symptoms is really, really important. If you're really struggling with losing weight, and I mean like you are towing the line, you are following everything exactly, you're not having cheats, you're not having a bunch of one and dones, and you're going, I literally cannot figure out why I'm not losing weight. It's probably because of a food you're sensitive to. And you know what? We'll go down the list of the most common ones, but when people talk about dirty keto, generally speaking, it's a lot of these kind of foods that people are eating. It's not to say that you can't have them. Macro wise, they totally fit within your macros, but they're considered, most of them, dirty keto. Well, some of them anyways, dirty keto. And there's a reason for that, because your body just doesn't handle them as well, and it causes huge inflammation in most. And that's why some of these foods are not considered clean keto. But again, you do you, but that's just the definition. Okay, so let's talk about, sorry, I got like three different pages of notes here. Okay, let's talk about the most common foods that people have sensitivities to. Okay, so the gluten and the grain category. This is what we would definitely call dirty keto. Wheat, rice, corn, oats, barley, quinoa, which is actually technically a seed, but still, rye, bran, buckwheat, and bulgur. And now I'm saying this is in under the category of gluten and grains, which is one of the main categories. I'm not saying that every single person is going to have an issue with every single one of these, and we'll talk about how you know the difference in a little bit when I get to that part. Okay, so the gluten and grains. Dairy is a huge one for a lot of people. Now, most of the time, butter doesn't cause a problem. I was talking to my naturopathic doctor about this, and he said, unless you're really, really sensitive, even if you have an issue with dairy, most people don't have an issue with butter. But if when they're testing out butter, it's an issue, you can definitely go to ghee. And if you go to ghee, that's clarified butter. It takes out all the proteins of the, like, I guess that would be the casein. It would take all that out of the dairy, and then you wouldn't have to worry. But most people don't have an issue with just using dairy. But okay, so dairy, like obviously cheddar cheese, mozzarella, whatever. A lot of people are really good with goat products. So that's an alternative for people that feel like they're sensitive to dairy. You can try goat products. I myself am sensitive to dairy. Doesn't mean I don't eat it, but I am sensitive to it. And I notice that I tolerate like feta cheese, that kind of stuff, so much better than regular dairy. I notice a huge difference. Eggs, and that's a category in itself. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people have a problem with eggs. I am one of those people, and it's really upsetting because it's such a great keto food. And it doesn't mean I don't have it, and I'll tell you how I incorporate these things into my diet. But it's really important that if you are suspecting eggs, like if every time you have an egg, you're noticing certain things, make sure that you actually get tested. And we'll talk about the different testing things. I keep saying I'm going to talk about it later because I have like different section notes here. But anyway, make sure you really get tested for that, because just because you have an egg and you notice an issue, it could be just one part of the egg. Some people have a real problem with the whites, and some people have a real problem with the yolks. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have a problem with both. So it is important to know, because then at least in between you having a full egg, you could have the other part of the egg. Okay, let's talk about ways that you can test. So there's the obvious, how do you feel? cause and effect. You have something, you notice these symptoms, seems pretty obvious to you. You don't necessarily need to get tested for that. If that feels like that. But what if you're kind of like, well, I don't know. I just kind of feel a little bit off, or I kind of feel like, sometimes I have a headache, or I have like some little psoriasis patches, or I have bloaty ankles sometimes, but you don't know specifically for sure what it is because you probably do eat a wide range of, sorry, it's a fluff, wide range of foods. There are tests that you can do. And I highly recommend taking these tests because you can do, like, if you go to a naturopathic doctor and say you didn't want to take the test, they'll say to you, cut everything out of your diet that would be probably a potential trigger food. And then, you go off for like, it's something like 2 or 3 months, right, of these foods, basically like you're eating meat and vegetables pretty much, right? And then you introduce one at a time for like 2 weeks to see how you feel. To me, that's ridiculous. Like, it's way too long, and I don't have the patience for that. Where you can get a test done, it is so easy. Back when I did mine, I got to look back here. The last time I did mine was, and I really have to get mine again because I want to see if anything's changed. It was in, where's the date? Oh, 2013. It was a while ago. So I need to get this done again. I don't know if anything has changed based on how I feel. I would say not too much has changed, other than my severity of like how I feel towards these foods. But anyways, I got this test done. Now, this one was through my naturopathic doctor. And back then, I didn't know of anything online. And I was doing a quick search online, and I found, I'm going to show you guys if I can be techie enough to bring it up here. Can you guys see that? Oh, yay. I always get excited when things work. Yeah, so I found these two. One's for Canada, one's for the States. And you can just do it all online. I think they send you like a test kit, and you probably put a little drop of blood on something or a hair sample. I'm not sure how these ones do it because those are the two different ways that I've seen that you can get your food sensitivity test done. And that is through blood and through hair analysis. So check out those just to see. And even if you don't like those, it'll get you on the path of like, just to see what's out there. If you don't want to go to your naturopathic doctor, I really don't know the prices or anything. So I'll just be honest with you. I was just looking to see who actually does the type of test that I'm going to kind of talk about right here. So the one that I have right here, it's called an IgE and an IgE and an IG4 combo. And it's an antibodies test. And what it does is it's checking the antibodies in your blood to see what you are sensitive to. And what I love about this one was from Meridian Valley Lab. And again, it was through my naturopathic doctor. So I don't know. I'm going to hold, no, you probably can't see it actually. I don't know if you can go directly to these guys, but my test was the IG. I just want to read this again. Yeah, IgE and IG4 combo. And it's supposed to be very accurate. And what I really like about it is, I don't know if you guys can see here, but it shows the food and it tells you if it's a, low, moderate, or completely avoid. As you can see, I've got some avoids here and I'll read them to you after. And so it tells you which foods that they highly recommend that you avoid. So in my particular case, dairy was for me, and egg white and egg yolk, which is really disappointing because couldn't be more keto than an egg. Gluten, really bad. But funny, when it goes under the grains, like it actually breaks down each grain. Now, in my mind, I don't really do great with any grains, and I've kind of lumped them all into one category for health reasons. I just really don't. I got to go back to the comments so I can see you guys. For health reasons and for my brain and trying to prevent, brain issues when I get older, I just don't feel like grains are a good food group for me. Anyhow, I feel like I get very, very inflamed when I eat grains. But when I look on this list here, it actually breaks it down and tells me gluten is absolutely, anything that has gluten in it is absolutely like horrendous. Rye is really, really bad as well. wheat is really, really bad. But what I see on here is that rice is really quite low, and oats are like, it didn't even give a little nub. It didn't even give anything for oats. So it's very, very low. It's listed as low. So if I was going to go off a little bit, if I was going to have a one and done, if I was to follow this of what is good for my body, I would go with rice and oats versus rye, wheat, corn, that type of thing, right? It makes sense, actually. It makes a lot of sense because I think of the times where I have gone off vacation or whatever, and when I kind of had too much on the wheat end of it, just I can't even tell you how crappy I felt, and achy and all that kind of stuff. But when, let's just say at home, we decided, oh, let's treat ourselves and have sushi or something, there's no wheat in that meal. It's going to be just rice. And besides feeling a little, the next day because I went way too high on the carbs, I felt okay otherwise. My joints didn't feel achy. So it actually makes a lot of sense. So having a test like this is really, really helpful. Seeing if there's anything else. Pineapple, surprisingly, pineapple, the innocent pineapple. I don't understand why that would be a bad one, but it's on the almost the avoid section. It's really, really high. Kidney beans are a no-no for me, and mushrooms are kind of like on the fence. Anyways, what I wanted to say next was don't panic because you get something like this done. And at first you think, oh my gosh, I can never have any of these foods again. And this is where it's really great to work with a naturopathic doctor and possibly one of these companies here. Maybe when you get your test results, sometimes they have a phone number that you can call in and talk to or something like that. I'm not really sure how they do it, but having someone to discuss this with after is really helpful because when I talked to my naturopathic doctor about my test results, the way he explained it to me is because, okay, number one, you don't have an allergy. You don't need an EpiPen. You're not, breaking out in humongous hives all over your body right after you eat something. So we're talking about a sensitivity. A sensitivity is something that ideally, and depending on what your level of sensitivity is, if it's on the avoid, so the ones that were like, say for me, wheat. So if it's on the avoid, it is not part of my everyday rotation. It's not even part of my regular life. It would be a one and done. It would be, once in a while kind of thing. I mean, unless of course you have it and you feel so crappy that it's not worth having it. But I'm saying if it's something that you still really want to have. The other thing is the ones that are kind of like middle of the road, you can rotate those in. I think he said to me, let me look up my notes here quick. Yeah, it actually gave you recommendations. The actual lab gave recommendations on the back, and they suggest rotating every 4 days. So let's say I had some dairy, then I wouldn't have dairy for 4 days. I would have 4 days in between the thing. You could well, I think they kind of recommend that you don't have all your kind of iffy foods on the same day. So you kind of rotate it. So let's just say, for example, on a Monday, I decided that I was going to have dairy. And then on Tuesday, I decide I'm going to have pineapple. And on Wednesday, I'm going to have something. And then you kind of rotate it. And then you have 4 days in between. Now, let's face it, in real life, we're busy and we don't have time for all this stuff. So for me, I know what my absolute kind of most important ones are to avoid. Like I said, grains are up, out. Like that is I don't even have that in my rotation. It's only when I decide to kind of eat, on a vacation or something like that is the only time I ever have that because I feel like crap. So I would say let your body be your guide. If there's something that you are saying, "Oh my gosh, it really affects me," I think it is worth avoiding completely. Now, let's take something that you don't notice anything like, for example, I can have dairy, it's in my medium list. I can have dairy and short of feeling maybe a little bit stuffy or yeah, maybe a bit stuffy or maybe just like a tiny bit of a runny nose I might get from having dairy. Short of that, I don't feel any ill effects. However, I do notice that when I lean too heavily on dairy, and when I say lean too heavily, I mean, say I'm having something every day, I notice that the weight just doesn't come off. I notice that even if I am following my macros to a T, I notice it's a lot slower. I notice maybe I'm a little bit puffier. Maybe it's just the water retention. I don't know. But I do notice that when I say that's it, I'm not going to have it every single day. I'm going to have it more like a treat, maybe like twice a week. I notice movement. So that's something to keep in mind if you're frustrated with your weight loss. Maybe think about this. I mean, whether you know what your issues are, or maybe consider getting a test like this done so that you know for yourself. Like I said, I'm mostly talking about this for the health perspective, because if you're dealing with any kind of like I said, skin issues or headaches or, achy joints, not feeling good, it is so awesome to actually know what foods affect you in that way. Really, it's an eye opener. But just as a side note, it would help you with weight loss too, because I notice a big difference when I avoid those foods. So I want to look back and see if you guys happen to know. Oh, no one's other than my sister is the only one that says, oh, Christina, my son does gluten. He had bad eczema. I took him off gluten when he was 18 months old to help his speech due to autism, which helped tremendously, and it cleared up his eczema too. Oh, that's fantastic. So that's definitely a win-win for sure. That's fantastic. So you knew that. Hey, Kim made it. Hello. Teresa, hi from Chicago. Welcome. Yeah, so anybody else? Does anybody else have anything to share with food sensitivities? Do you happen to know for sure or suspect you might have? You know what would be really fun? Well, I don't know if it'd be really fun, but it might be an interesting thing to do. We do all the different challenges in the group and stuff. And if we did some kind of a like dairy-free week or something like that, just to see how we would feel. If we went 7 days, 7 solid days, I can't honestly remember the last time I went dairy-free for 7 whole days, but just 7 days, because you know what? Even people without food sensitivities, dairy's not a dirty keto thing. It's a real keto thing, but I don't know why. I just feel like I hear all the time that people say they always find that their weight loss slows down when they lean too heavily on the dairy. So it'd be interesting if we did something like that, just a dairy-free week. That's just a fun thing. I saw something at the end here. Teresa, what test did you have done? I chimed in late. Oh, Teresa. Okay. So look on the, right there. If you see on the screen, you can see on the screen there. I gave you a website for Canada and a website for the States. Those are just 2 online options that look similar to what I got done. Now, what I had done here, this one, it is through a lab in Canada, but my naturopathic doctor, he ordered the test, and it's generally they're called like an IgE test. It's an antibodies test for food sensitivities, and it's by blood. And so I went to a lab. I did the blood work. It went to the lab. The lab sent back the results to my naturopathic doctor, and then I had a meeting with him, and we went over everything. But like I said, that was quite a few years ago. And I think these ones online, or something similar to what I'm showing you here, you should be able to do it online. I mean, things have changed so much. I remember way back when I had to go through like a doctor to get like hormone testing and stuff. And now you can do everything. You can order a test online. ZRT Labs is the best one. I love them. And you can do your a saliva test, blood test, whatever. They offer a zillion tests. In fact, ZRT Labs, I would not be surprised, probably has this. I should have looked into that actually. ZRT Labs probably also has an IgE test. So it's super, super easy to take. Angela says, I can't do dairy at all. A lot of people can't do dairy. Now, do you just know that just for yourself, Angela? Like you just, kind of gauged how you felt, or did you get any kind of testing done? I'm curious. It's great if you're just listening to your body. Honestly, we should all be listening to our bodies and doing, if something doesn't feel right. The other thing I wanted to mention too is ways that we can improve this. This does not mean that this has to last forever. And I'm not saying this is a for sure. And again, I'm not a doctor, but one of the main reasons it seems that people have food sensitivities is usually connected to not good gut health, okay? Or having some issues with the gut. Like I can tell you when I was a kid, I was probably on antibiotics like 15, 20 times, probably more, honestly. Anyways, I won't go into it, but I had some allergies that I was surrounded with all the time. And my body just couldn't handle it. So I was sick very often. And every time I get sick, back in those days, you automatically went on antibiotics. And so I was on it so many times. I didn't repopulate my gut with, probiotics or anything. I wouldn't say we didn't really eat super amazingly when it comes to like a lot of healthy vegetables and stuff. So, you know, that adds up over time. And by the time I became adult, all of a sudden I'm having these food sensitivities and things like that. So I have been constantly working on my gut. That's why I take my bone broth protein powder. That's why I do the 3-day bone broth cleanse, which I haven't done for a long time, but I have to get back to it. But it's a good one, and we need to do it in the group. That is why, I do talk about gut health so much, probiotics, prebiotics, all that kind of stuff, because if our gut is really, really strong, it's sort of like they say, like there's these little holes, right? And if our gut is really strong and it's like this, then everything stays where it's supposed to be. But when we get these little holes in there, and then the proteins and things go through, and then our body sees it as an enemy. And the body says, oh, I have to attack that. I have to attack that. And that's when we have issues with the food. So I'm kind of hoping that after these years of working on my gut and everything, I really do want to get this test done again. And maybe that's what I'll do. I'll get that test done again. I'll report back to you guys to see if anything has improved. But I will say that it has only been about the last, I'll say 5 years that I really started focusing on my gut more. And then these years prior, I wasn't. So who knows? Makes me really want to step things up, though, because I want to see better numbers. Angela said, also, the doctor told me, oh, well, there you go. The doctor told you that you had a problem with dairy. Yeah. And it was probably pretty obvious to you, too. And then you discussed it with your doctor, and he was like, yeah, it's probably dairy. And if you took the dairy out and you were feeling so much better, there you go. So that's what I'm saying is, like, you don't necessarily have to get one of these tests done, but man, it is really good. And do you know what's really funny? So we don't normally have pineapple. I would not say that pineapple is a thing that we have in our house on any kind of a regular basis at all, mostly because it's super high in carbs and sugar, right? So I'm not going to eat that thing. But last weekend, we ended up I saw this recipe, and it was, my husband just loves pineapple ice cream. If we ever go on holidays, especially if it's Hawaii or something, we always have to look for pineapple ice cream. And I just happened to stumble upon this recipe, and you take, what do? You take, I'm trying to think, you cut up the pineapple into bits and you freeze it. And then you take coconut milk, like either in the can with the thicky part with it, or just regular coconut. And then you put it in a blender and you mix it up, add a little bit of stevia, whatever. Anyways, had the kids over and everything last weekend. I thought, wouldn't that be fun to just test this thing out? So I got pineapple. I got from Costco, cut up pineapple. I made it. Well, I couldn't, make it, not have it. And by the way, that was after keto confession. So yeah, I'll confess next week. Anyway, so I had to have some just to try it. And I had, like a decent, like I don't know, half a cup or whatever. And the next day, no word of a lie, I just felt like just inflamed. Like I felt really inflamed. My ankles were swollen up. I just felt just off. I felt really, really off. And I thought, that's really weird because I didn't have any grains last night. And I really just chalked it up to, well, I guess I'm still, kind of getting over my vacation or whatever. And it wasn't until I pulled this out a few days ago because I wanted to go over it before today. And I'm looking through it and I went, oh my gosh, pineapple is through the roof. I actually had forgotten about it. I haven't looked at this for a long time. I just knew in my mind, wheat, eggs, dairy, those are my heavy hitters. Didn't even think about the pineapple, but now it makes so much sense. So you see why it's so great to have these tests if you actually look at them, and try to avoid those foods because, yeah, I felt it. I felt it big time. My sister Lori heard me. I was telling her that I just wasn't feeling right this week, and I bet you anything that that's part of the reason why. Angela, how can I get regular stool? Oh, you want to talk about being regular? Okay. I can't do it here because I'm on a different computer, but I have a really good digestive drink that I have every morning. I know a lot of people in the group have it every morning, and it really keeps things kind of formed nicely, and it keeps things moving along. It's like nature's little broom in there, just getting things out. So what I will do is I'm just going to write your name down to make sure I don't lose you, and I'm going to tag you in the group with my recipe, and you can give it a try for yourself. It's in, if you go into guide number 4, Keto for Good Health, it's in there, but you may have to scroll a bit. So I'll just tag you, and then that way you'll get it. Teresa, I like the idea of dairy-free challenge. Too much coffee during the day with heavy whipping cream and too much cheese as snack. Yeah, right. And it's really easy to do. And even if you don't have a food sensitivity, it can make a difference. And I also think too, it's like when we're eating a lot of dairy, what aren't we eating? Because I have to admit, when I'm kind of in the mood for it, like a cheese string or I'm kind of hungry, I'll eat whatever. I could have easily had some vegetables. I could have easily have grabbed like a hunk of cucumber and put a little salt on it or something like that. But no, I go for the cheese because it's super easy and plus it's really yummy. So go for that. But that could probably make a difference. So that would be kind of a fun thing to do, wouldn't it? We could do a dairy-free challenge just for 1 week. Okay, I'm writing that down as ideas. Sometimes I think these are great ideas, and then I'm like, well, am I going to do this challenge? Am I going to be the only one doing the challenge? It's like challenge for 1, yay. But I'll present it to the group and see what other people think. If nothing else, we can do a rotation of different things. Okay, you guys, that's about it for me. I'm just gonna see if there's anything else I have in my notes. No, that's about it. So yeah, see what you guys think. See if you're interested in maybe getting one of these food sensitivities tests done. And let me just write in here. I'll create another one. Try this one out too. I believe that is it. You guys see that? Yeah, pretty sure that's the website. They do hormones, they do D levels, which is super good. I could do a talk just really on ZRT Labs on the different things that they test. And it's okay if you're from Canada. You can totally order a test from them and send it back down to them. I've done it many times. So either country is good. And these guys are fantastic. I just totally forgot to check if they do an IgE. I forgot to check. So give that a check. And yeah, you guys let me know in the group if you decide to get tested on anything like this, and let me know what your results are. It's kind of interesting. Okay, you guys, well, you take care, and I will talk to you in the group. Okay, bye guys. Hey guys, before you go, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the bell notification so you can be notified every time we have a new video posted. Also, down in the description, I will have links to everything that we talked about in our chat today, including information on how you can join my Intentionally Bare Keto support group. See you next time.